Warning, the following may be offensive to some viewers due to language and violence. On the night before the biggest professional wrestling company has their biggest event of the year, featuring two of the biggest stars in the history of sports entertainment, this professional wrestling company has an event in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. One of hundreds of independent professional wrestling companies running shows in bingo halls and National Guard armories. Competing are guys who have lives outside of wrestling but put their bodies on the line to do something they love for limited pay and small crowds. One of those guys is Nate Blazer. But to the people who fill these gymnasiums, he's Jay Money, a veteran of the independent professional wrestling scene. This is his story. To understand why Nate puts his body on the line, one must realize his passion and his love for professional wrestling.
I grew up with my grandfather living in the house because my mom was a young mom, so we would watch a lot of wrestling. I'd say that the first memory that I have would be going to Hershey. I think I probably remember that more than actually like watching it on TV. But I was so young, I was just happy to be there. You know, I just remember seeing the Hart Foundation, might have fell asleep, and then just in time for Hulk Hogan to come out. I'd say maybe around like 10 or 11 years old, I kind of got an idea that, you know, maybe it wasn't guys trying to kill each other, you know, as much as what I thought. Maybe it was entertaining. I remember as a kid, like I'd say first, second grade, I used to want to beat up bullies all the time because I felt like that's what Hulk Hogan would do or whatever. But I'd say probably around like 10, 11 years old, that's where I thought, you know, maybe I want to do this. Maybe I'd have fun doing it because, of course, you know, you wrestle with your friends and you enjoy it and you want to do that in front of a crowd. But I think like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Mr. Perfect, those are more guys that I could relate to, Marty Jannetty, the Rockers. I was probably 16, 17, looking for wrestling schools. I was talking to Larry Sharp down at the Monster Factory about going down there. My goal was to move down to Jersey after high school, train down there, but then wrestling school opened up nearby where I lived at. So I thought, you know, most of the names you never hear about where some of these guys are trained from. I don't think it necessarily depends on who you're trained by. I just think it depends on what you do with that training. I think like maybe one of the only few people that actually believed that I would do it was my stepfather. Like he was always like, if that's what you want to do, Nate, you should do it. You should go after it. You should go after it full tilt. And even as I started to do it, like he would get excited about, you know, the stories that I would tell when I come back. Because when I started wrestling, I was still living with my mom and him. So I would go away for a weekend. I'd be gone till like 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night or 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Come back Sunday and talk to him about the shows, and you know he'd be really psyched. You know, he knew most of the people, most of the names I was working with. I remember training, and part of the first like little bit of training every day we'd have to run about a mile. I remember running a mile with this one guy that I started with. His name was Jason, later to wrestle with Sam Desperly. And he had said, you know, we talked about what we wanted to do in the wrestling business, and his goal really wasn't much of anything. He just wanted to be a wrestler. He just wanted to wrestle in the indies, and you know, he would feel blessed to, you know, get like a job spot on WWE or something like that, or WWF at the time. But where my thoughts were is I wanted to be the guy that won the world championship at WrestleMania. You know, there was no job guy sight for me. I wanted to be the top guy. And I think like at that time, you know, nobody could tell me any different that I wasn't going to be.
Nate's career was taking off, but almost came crashing down after an incident with his trainer.
I started my training with Johnny Glitter, World Star Wrestling. Went on a road trip with two guys that I thought I was close with, but I learned very quickly that one of them didn't know the car rule. I didn't say anything out of line. I had asked the guy that we were traveling with, he's been in the business for a while, his name is Fumar. I asked him, how come Johnny Glitter doesn't do anything with Alpha and the Wild Smoke anymore? And Fumar told me why. And the other guy that was with us was, of course, one of the other students with Johnny Glitter as well. We didn't really, you know, say one thing or the other. We were just listening to the story. And then it turns out a couple of weeks later, I work a show for Johnny Glitter. He's very kind of short with me. We're going on, and he says, you know, he's going to give me one more chance. You know, and I kind of look at it as, well, maybe he's just mad at me because I ask questions and whatever. So I'm kind of going with him at this point. I'm thinking in my mind, okay, we'll work it out. And then he adds this. He says, "This is your last chance, and if you ever screw me over again, you're done." And I said, "All right." He's like, "Not only are you done in my promotion, I'll make sure somebody takes you out, so you'll be done in wrestling, period." So handed my tickets in, said I'm done. And at that point, I was totally done with wrestling. I thought that everybody in the business was like him, and I just didn't want to be a part of it if that was the case. You never know who you could trust. I felt like that guy was like a father to me. And then to have him threaten my safety and my life, it just kind of blew my mind. So I was going to be done with the business totally at that point, and that was just crushing for me because that's all I wanted to do was be a wrestler. So imagine like growing up, all you want to do is this, and you can do it, and then you find out everybody in it is shady or you think that everybody in it is shady as shit. I ended up getting an email, basically where it came in, I ended up getting an email from Rob Noxious, and the email address was robnoxious123 at AOL, and I'm thinking to myself, man, that looks like a fake email. Like, I don't know if this is, Glitter trying to play a trick on me or what, or see if I was, going to bite or whatever. And sure enough, it was Rob. He gave me his number. I called him up. I remember him giving his daughter medicine on the phone. I'm just thinking, this guy seems like a legit guy. This guy seems like somebody that isn't shady. So he said, I'm opening up a school. Why don't you come out and just, hang out and work out a little bit and decide what you want to do.
I guess he got wise to the guy's, bull crap. And, I just opened up the school and I'm like, look, dude, any time that you want to leave there and come with me, you're more than welcome to. So we deprogrammed money, because that's exactly what it was. It wasn't deprogramming because the guy who trained him didn't train him properly.
He kind of, fixed up a lot of stuff that I learned the wrong way and polished it up. There's a lot of things that I didn't know from training at the other place that Rob kind of taught me. I mean, I picked up a little bit from some of the wrestlers that came in and a little bit of psychology from Glitter as well, but there was a lot of things like, standing tall, even working the left side of the body, necessarily like stuff like that. I just didn't pick up. It crushed me because I thought everybody in the wrestling business was like that. And it pissed me off because I thought that this guy was going to almost ruined, a very important part of my life that I even met, met my current fiance through another wrestler. I met, a girl that I was with for 6 years through a wrestling fan, so it's like all that stuff I would have missed out on had it not been for the wrestling business, had it not been for Rob coming along and saying, "Hey, Nate, not everybody's like this." I had won a tag team title, like I think my 4th match into Triple WA. I showed up, set up the ring. They said, "Hey, you got blonde hair. There's this guy that's tag team champions. They're the Suicide Blondes. His partner didn't show up. Do you want to defend the titles with him?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that. That'd be awesome." So I defended the title with a guy named Ty Street, who was just actually let go by WWE. He was doing some trial spots with them, and I guess he made the wrong people angry with him one night and got kicked out. So we worked the tag match, won the belts, or lost the belts. I lost the belts for them, but that was technically my first championship. And I remember asking her that night, I was like, "Can I put that on my resume? That was a championship?" Just being such a big fan of the fact that I won my first championship. But yeah, the CCW title was my first singles title, was the first build up. I remember probably a month before winning that title, I dislocated my elbow pretty bad on a show, completely just put it out to the point where there were ligaments just snapped on the inside of my elbow. So they put a half cast on it, and I still was bumping around with a half cast at the wrestling school at the time. And I said, well, I could bump with a cast and do this match because I really didn't want to miss out on this match. It was at my high school, and I knew that they weren't going to not put the title on me, because it's built up. It's built up. It's just obvious whenever you build up this face so much that eventually they're going to get what's coming to them, especially at their hometown area. So I called the doctor up and said, "Hey, could you guys put a cast on my arm for that night?" And they said, "Well, we could get you fitted for a brace, and the brace would allow you not to extend your elbow beyond a certain point." So I got the brace, and I'd say 20 days after I dislocated my elbow, I was back up wrestling at Penn State, and then went into the match. I was a little less muscular than I wanted to be for the match because I couldn't lift as much. And there's a lot of spots that we wanted to do that we couldn't do now that I only had one arm, but we made it through the match okay, and it turned out to be a pretty good match. A lot of people liked it. And I think a week later, I won my second singles title up in this promotion called TWWA from Johnny Graham. And so it's kind of cool because I got to win a belt from Rob Noxious, who helped train me, and then Johnny Graham, who worked with me at another school at one time too. So it's kind of cool, like 2 weeks in a row working with those guys in high-profile matches. I'm not really sure what the future holds for me. I'd say at least once a week I think about, taking off a few years and just coming back to it when I absolutely love it again. But then there's nights where I'll go to a show and I absolutely do love it again. This past weekend I worked with a guy named C-Fed for CCW, and the crowd was just so intense that I actually loved it. I felt like why would I ever want to leave this? But there's some times where you'll have a bad experience at a company and you just think, why do I do this? But it's just kind of one of those things. You got to be one of the strongest people mentally and one of the strongest people physically to withstand the wrestling business for the years that you do. I'd say I definitely want to keep doing this for as long as I can. I feel like I still have something to offer, whether it be through helping train people, whether it be through helping people put together matches. I've done that before with CCW, helped younger guys put together matches. Everybody seems to think I have a knack for the storytelling of wrestling. So I try to look at things, and I even try to watch my own matches back and say, I should have done this instead of that. You only have one opportunity to be out there, and if you don't leave them with a lasting impression, then you're nobody.